folks. How's it going? Let's make sure we got some sound going. Yep. I see a little bouncy thingy saying I've got sound and so forth. Hey, I hope you had a good weekend. Monday at 8 a.m. It's too soon to be talking about the weekend, huh? Because then you start thinking about the next. However, wow, you know what? We are halfway through the semester now. Not only are we halfway through the semester, but I maintain that you have already done the most difficult work of the semester. And we're going to talk about that and kind of talk about what we're doing going forward. Sorry, got an itchy nose all of a sudden. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about this a lot over the next couple of weeks, and I'll send some emails and so forth. Here's the way it's going to work. We've only got 2 live streams left. This live stream and then next week. All right, well, then what's going on? Well, then after that, I will be setting up, or I have set up, Zoom meetings. Hey, how goes it? Cheat activated. Gosh, I know your name. Oh, I forget your name now. But hey, how's it going? As a matter of fact, I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to pull up what we are doing. Can you hear me? No. That's right, Christopher. Holy cow, how funny. I'm going to come back over here to the announcements, let you see this. You notice that this is today's live stream, and then we have next week's live stream. Maybe I'll get out of the way just a little bit here. And then we are doing the next 4 weeks are a Zoom meeting. Now, 3 of these Zoom meetings are writing workshops. Now, what do I mean by a writing workshop? Here's the thing is, after next week's live stream, you guys are just working on your projects. That's it. I'm giving you this class time to work on your projects. My hope, although it's, you guys have your schedule, you decide your schedule. My hope is that you will use this time, this class time, to, instead of meeting in class, you meet as your team and align things and so on and so forth. However, during the class time, I have these Zoom meetings set up, and I will be on Zoom. I will be on Zoom for the whole 2 hours. And if ever you need to come in, ask questions, want to workshop something with me, help you think through something, anything at all, I'm available during the entire class period to help you guys out. So the idea, once again, we have this live stream today, and then we have a live stream next week, and then after that, it's all Zoom. Now, the very last Zoom is a continue, stop, start. I'll go over that later on. But this is all you need to really worry about for now. I will send an email later on to explain this a little bit more. And of course, I will go over it next week as well in the live stream. But I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. And actually, we'll go back to it later. Okay. All right, getting folks on. Fantastic, marvelous. All right, so let's go ahead and start. You remember this life cycle? This is the entire life cycle that you are following in your strategic communications plan. By the way, a thing about that strategic communications plan, that's not just an academic exercise. The strategic communications plan and the campaign that you are doing, this is the way that communications is done in corporate America, at least companies that take their internal communications, their business communications seriously. So I worked for Intel Corporation for many, many, many years. About 7 of those years, I was the internal communications, business communications operations manager. And the the plan and campaign that you guys are doing, that's not from a textbook. This is what Intel does. So at this point, you're very familiar with it. Let's kind of go through. You guys figured out a purpose for your campaign, right? Some of you are doing how to get employees to use social media more effectively. Some of them have something to do with students. I can't remember your purposes right off, but all of you have a really nice, clear purpose statement, and that's stupendous. It's important to have a good purpose statement because your purpose decides your audience, okay? And you guys have done your audience analysis. Now I've got good news for you. That was the most difficult part of the entire plan, your audience analysis. Now, some of you have some work to do to improve it and get it up to snuff for the final plan, but none of you are in dire straits, right? You're all looking really good. That audience analysis is always the most difficult and time-consuming, research-rich required aspect of the plan. So you've all got that now. So then what does that leave you? Well, the first thing that leaves you is your channels. Now that you know the purpose of your communications campaign, what do you want people to do? And you know who your audience is, the people who you want to do something, you then need to figure out how are you going to tell them? How are you going to communicate with them? These are the channels. Now, once again, your audience decides the channel. You don't just look at the channel and say, hey, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this. It's whatever the audience wants. And so we're going to go into detail on that today. And I am going to use, for example, hey, I want you to subscribe to Nutshell Brainery, the channel that you're watching right now. I want you to subscribe. Now, odds are most of you are subscribed anyway, but just for the example of talking about channels and format and so forth, we're going to use this going forward, okay? So that's my purpose. My purpose is I want you to subscribe to Nutshell Brainery. My audience are Business 2200 live stream students, you guys. I have a clear purpose. I have a very specific audience. So then let's talk about the channels. Well, let's go through that. Communication channels. We're not going to worry about this one. Here's the thing, guys. There are, a channel is any way that we communicate. Okay? So it's just about anything could be a channel. If it conveys information, then it's a channel. All right? So at work, where you guys work, or here at Salt Lake Community College, we've got the traditional channels. We have, email, phone, posters, newsletters, the Canvas pop-up, Canvas itself. These are all communication channels that Salt Lake Community College uses with you. Right now, I am using, live streams and so forth, and PowerPoint presentations. However, channels can also be things like body language and dress. So, for example, right now, I use lots of body language, right? I love to gesticulate. I gesticulate on live stream. That's a communication channel. My voice, my intonation, it goes up and down. So there's a lot of energy in my voice and my tone and how I articulate and then gesticulate and so forth. And then you notice this cool ass shirt I've got, right? Be curious and keep learning, Nutshell Brainery. So since my objective is to get you to subscribe to Nutshell Brainery, this dress is an albeit subtle, but a way to encourage you to follow through on the message. So this shirt is part of a communication channel as well as all this stuff, right? Never thought about body language as a channel. It absolutely is. It's really quite extraordinary, actually, when you think about it. Think about this for a moment. Body language, tonality, and so forth. The example I like to use, Brittany, is, okay. If you speak a foreign language, if any of you, or if English is the foreign language and so on and so forth, if you speak a second language, me, I speak French and Japanese. Let's use French for a moment. If I am speaking with somebody in French face to face, okay, face to face, I can understand about 60%, okay, 60% of it. Maybe 70. I'll be generous. I understand 70%. However, if I'm talking on the phone with somebody in French, I'm lucky to get 30%. The facial expression and the body language really helps convey the information. So it makes the channel richer, and we're going to talk about that. So yeah, body language. You know, and think about when you're watching a movie or something and you put it on mute, you still know what's going on because of the body language. So yeah, it's interesting stuff, or at least to me. Okay. So now, here's the thing. The challenge with communicating is not a lack of channels. There are so many stinking channels. Phones, voicemail, email, instant message, intranet, intercom, blah, 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 blah. There are so many channels, okay? By the way, Brittany's English first and second language on the phone, always difficult, right? Even then. So the reason I point this out is, again, I used to work at Intel Corporation. You know, they make all the CPUs and so forth. And Intel loved to say things like, oh, we need to develop a new communication channel. We need a communication channel that talks to this group or that group or this, that, and the other, right? And that would just drive me bonkers. Because I was the operations manager, it would be my job to create the new channel. It's not that I didn't want to do my job. It's that I'd be going, folks, look at all these channels we have available. It's not a question of a lack of channels. It is a question of what is the right channel to use with the right audience at the right time, given the message. And we're going to talk about all that today. Okay. By the way, Christopher, I took French for 4 years and I barely remember any of it because I don't use it. That's the thing, man. That's the thing. So I rarely use my French. If I'm speaking with somebody in French, I'll be honest, I don't speak French because it just sounds awful. However, when I hear it, I can understand it and we're good. So it's like me speaking English, they speak French, and it's great. I'm actually trying to work on this. French, I get a little bit more exposure to. My Japanese is like almost completely gone. And it's like, because I have far less opportunity to use Japanese than I do French. So yeah, if you don't use it, you lose it. It's so true. Okay. So, with so many channels available, guys, what really happens is we just get lazy and we use the same channels over and over and over. All right. So we use the easy, cheap channels. That's where we all go to. Now, I'm not just talking about you guys as students having to do an assignment, so I'm going to do an easy, cheap channel. I'm talking about multi-billion-dollar corporations who are trying to communicate with their employees, and all they're doing is the easy, cheap channels because whatever, right? So they're always going to email, they're always doing flyers and always doing that sort of stuff. And it may not be the right channel. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We're going to talk about that. So what we really need to do is think about our audience, our message, and the desired outcome of the communication. Okay? So now, once again, the example I'm going to use as we go forward is you are my audience. You are my Business 2200 communication students. All right, that is a very narrow audience. Is there a list of channels that, yeah, as I say, that list goes on forever, right? So you are my audience. And my purpose is I want you to subscribe to Nutshell Brainery and maybe get your friends to subscribe as well. Okay, so that's my audience, that's my message, and that's my desired outcome. You subscribe, you ask your friends to subscribe. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go forward here. Now, one thing we want to look at is what we call richness, channel richness, all right? Well, what does this mean? It means some channels, how do I put it? The more engaging and compelling and multi-level a channel is, the richer it is. Okay, so for example, right now we're doing a live stream. This would be considered a very, very rich channel because it's real time, synchronous. We're going to talk more about that later on. It's engaging. It's multivariant. I am using tonality. I'm using body language. I've got a cool ass shirt. I've got graphics, all this sort of stuff, right? And so, and it's real time. This allows a high degree of interaction. I can interact with you. You can interact with me. The only way this channel would be richer is if we were meeting face to face and in person, and for one-on-one. If we were meeting in person, face to face, and one-on-one. That is the richest the channel can get. Okay, so that's rich. All right, so what's low richness? Memos, form emails, not even personally written emails, just a form template boilerplate email, a boilerplate memo, and so forth. There's no personal touch to these channels. There's no engagement. There's no back and forth. It is asynchronous. We'll talk more about that later, like I said. And so these are things that we just hit delete. We just hit delete, right? And so all communication channels are somewhere on this, there we go, this continuum right here. Well, here's the thing though. The less rich a channel, such as a boilerplate email, the more efficient it is. It's really cheap, it's really easy, and I can reach an awful lot of people. However, it's not effective because people just hit delete, they don't bother reading it. On the other end of the scale, though, really, really rich channels, they are very effective, but highly inefficient. I can't meet personally in face or live stream with all that many people. And so if I'm trying to reach tens of thousands of employees, I can't do that one-on-one or even in a small room with, say, 20 people. It's just not efficient. However, it's really, really effective. So that's the balancing act that we need to figure out when communicating with our employees, with managers, coworkers, in an organization, what have you. There's efficient, but not very effective. And there's effective, but not very efficient. Where are we going to land in there? Okay, so that's the first thing to consider. Real quick, Hold on. Wrong way. Here we go. Brittany says, as I sit here beneath a heated blanket and a smoothie in my hand, I must respectfully disagree that face-to-face would be better. Right? It's like, I don't want to be. That's actually why, Brittany, by the way, when we meet in Zoom, I do not require students to turn on their cameras. I kind of feel that I wouldn't go so far as to say it's an invasion of privacy, but it's like, listen, I don't know that I want to show this to you right now, right? 8 a.m. on a Monday. So Zara says, 1/4 of my work emails are unread. Yes. So true. Emails go unread. That's why we have the email assignment this week that we do. No one ever reads a long email. Yeah. You gotta keep those bad boys short. Specific, to the point. What action do you want me to take? Move on. Therefore, the email assignment we have this week. Diane says, when I get a long email, I usually call the person because, that's really good. Yeah, it's like, why go back and forth on emails? You know what, to that point, and by the way, you guys have got this. So a friend of mine one time said, emails are like rabbits. You put one out into the world and 5 come back. And so it's like, no. I'm not going to be doing all that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to call you guys, right? Yes. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Absolutely. I actually just got an email. By the way, the email assignment that you guys have for this week, that email that I'm asking you to simplify, it's a real email. It's real. And it's like, I can't believe an educated person wrote this thing. Anyway, I got an email last week that I just showed to my wife, and she just looked at it and said, I don't even want to look at it. It's that, we're going to talk about that when we talk about format. Okay, let's keep going. You guys are getting it. Yeah, Brittany, that was a real email. Okay, then we got to talk about synchronous versus non-synchronous. Okay? Synchronous versus non-synchronous it is happening in real time, which means feedback can be back and forth. So, for example, I can say that was a real email. Brittany comes back with saying, what? And Sarah says, that's crazy. It was so repetitive and so forth. Yes. This is the advantage of a synchronous channel. We can go back and forth. So telephone is synchronous, right? A face-to-face meeting is synchronous. These are happening in the moment together. Okay. Versus asynchronous is something that is a channel that's sent out there, is created, but the person may not read it or listen to it for who knows when, right? So, example, for the most part, an email is asynchronous. I send the email and you'll read it when you read it. You send me an email and I'll read it when I read it, okay? Same with a voicemail. Voicemail is, hey, I'm leaving you this message. You'll listen to the voicemail when you do. The videos that you watch for this class, these are asynchronous channels. I created the video and made it available. When you watch it, if you watch it, is up to you. It is done at different times, asynchronous. Now, some channels can kind of be both, such as texting. Now, texting is an interesting thing. Texting can be either synchronous or asynchronous. So it could be me sending my kid a text saying, hey, do me a favor, when you come home, remember to do this, or quick reminder, I'm going to be doing this today, so blah, blah, blah. That's an asynchronous. On the other hand, a lot of us can be having a conversation in text. Now, what's funny is when we don't have agreement on whether or not this text is a synchronous or asynchronous channel. So, for example, I used to work with someone who's awesome. She's fantastic and amazing. I love her. But to her, a text was a synchronous channel. And so she would send me a text, and then like 2 minutes later, did you get my text? Why haven't you responded? And the minute after that, Lon, where are you? And I'm like, dude, it was a text. I'll get to it when I can. To me, it's an asynchronous channel. So yeah, kind of interesting there. So Christopher says, I love synchronous for the conversation. Yes, absolutely. That's the real advantage of it. Love it for learning in a professional environment. Absolutely. Yeah, Brittany, yes, the email. It was a disgrace. No doubt about it. Here's the thing, Brittany, though, when you say someone needs to go back to the requirements of JED English class and so forth. This is something that I am constantly astonished by, both in humanity and myself. It's amazing how many things we know intellectually, and we can even teach, and we can even be paid to teach it. And yet when it comes to actual practice, we're like, oh, whatever. And it's like, dude, you understand this. You freaking made videos about it. You wrote a book about it. I did. And yet when you're actually doing it, you just it all evaporates, right? It's amazing to me. Yeah, had a similar assignment. Very cool. Okay, let's continue. It's easier to hold a conversation when I have time to think my reply over rather than sitting there face to face in awkward silence. Good point. Sarah says, I use asynchronous paper trails because things can become a blame game. Yeah, you know what? That's another thing about things like emails and so forth, is it's kind of like documenting that I told you, right? This is one of the things about, well, we're going to come back to frequency and so on and so forth. But yeah, oftentimes at work, the email, okay, no, I'll give you an example. Okay. When you guys hold meetings and so forth, you should do minutes. You should record minutes. When did you meet? What decisions were made? Who's responsible for what? What are the timelines? Minutes are a great way to document the decisions so that everybody's on the same page. However, Sarah, as you say, oftentimes we kind of use emails in the same way, but not in a kind of open way, more subversive. Okay, let's keep going. Then we got push versus pull. Okay. By the way, real quick. So when it came to the richness, I'm sorry, I haven't been using. So I have asked you to subscribe to Nutshell Brainery here, right? So this is richness. When it comes to synchronous versus asynchronous, I'm doing so right now in a synchronous way. I have also done so in an asynchronous way. So if we come back over here real quick, I'm sorry, I meant to use the examples. Over here in the extra, oh, not that one. I want this one. Over here in the student syllabus, extra credit, I say, hey, subscribe to Nutshell Brainery, and you can get extra credit. This is me providing the information in an asynchronous way. Okay? So going back to our example there. Brittany, by the way, says, I do like text and email better, mostly because I can't remember things very well. Okay, yeah, actually, so for me, Brittany, will require someone to either send me an email or send me a text if they ask something of me, because if they just ask it synchronously, just talking, I will not remember, which is why on my phone, my absolute favorite feature on all the things this phone can do is I'll say, hey, Google, take a note. And then it's doing it right now. And it just saved that note. Okay, so it's a way that I can record these things. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Push versus pull. Okay. Push is when somebody is pushing the message out to you, and there's very little you need to do to get access to that message, to the channel, right? So, for example, hey, do me a favor, subscribe to Nutshell Brainery and tell your friends and family to. I have now pushed that out to you. All you had to do was show up. All you had to do was show up to class, which is something you kind of planned on doing anyway. So you are very passive, not in the bad way. When it comes to a push channel, the audience can be passive. They don't need to know anything. They don't need access to anything. All they need to do is be where you expect them to be, and you walk on up and say, hey, do me a favor. Subscribe to Nutshell Brainery. Tell your friends and family to. Okay, so I have pushed that out, right? Notifications would be a push channel. All right, very good. Pushed because it's just pushed out to your phone. Email is just pushed out. But now check this out. Let's talk social media, okay, Christopher? Social media and pull channels. Pull channel is when the audience has to go out and get the information, which means they have to want the information, and they have to know where the information is, and they have to actually go out and get it. So in the case of, hey, subscribe to Nutshell Brainery, I've asked you to do this in a push channel through this live stream. However, it's also out here under extra credit in the student syllabus. Now, in order for you to have gotten that, this is a pull channel. In order for you to have gotten this, you had to know that it was connected with extra credit. You had to know that it was in the student syllabus. You had to know how to get to the student syllabus, and you had to actually go out and do it. That's why it's pull. So yeah, Christopher, you get it. The reason that something is a pull, the reason social media is a pull channel is that people have to actually go out and they have to follow you or subscribe to you or things like that, right? So here's a great example. I will have many students say, okay, in our communications plan, we're going to use Instagram because it's cheap and so on and so forth. And yeah, Instagram. And we're going to use TikTok. TikTok's another big one, and it's a really, really, really good one. If you have followers. So a social media channel is only as good as your ability to accumulate followers, right? So for example, if somebody says, hey, our communication channel, our objective and audience is to encourage Salt Lake Community College students to register for fall semester, and they say we're going to put it on Instagram, I then turn around and say, how many of you follow Slick on Instagram? Nobody follows Slick on Instagram. Nobody at all. Therefore, it's not an effective channel. So yeah, it would be a pull channel, Christopher, because since people have to go out there and actually get it, they have to go out and pull it. They're not passive. So now I admit there's a little bit of a Venn diagram there. Some are clearly push, some are clearly pull, some kind of go together. In the case of, say, like social media, it could be that going to social media is so normal for you that you do it all the time, every day, that it's almost part of your passive life. And I don't mean passive in a bad way. It just means that it's so regular for you that it's almost kind of a push channel. So, for example, billboards are a push channel because they're pushing it out to you and you're just driving your route, but you still have to drive your route. This live stream is a push channel because all you have to do is show up and you've gotten the message, but you still need to show up. But that's different than pull, where you need to know you need to know that you want the message, you need to know where it is, you need to have access to get it, and you need to actually go off and do it. People often forget that fact. Social media is only valuable when your business when you have followers. Absolutely, Brittany. Which is why one of the things I want to do is up my subscribers, because I'm all about lifelong learning. And the more subscribers I have, the more reach I have to bring people into this world of lifelong learning. I don't want you to stop learning as soon as you get your degree. If you do that, you are screwed. I'm just telling you. You got to keep learning. And so that's why I'm doing that. What if I was like watching your live stream and you bring a guest on that mentions their channels and you give them a shout out? Is that considered a push? Okay, that's a really great example of where it can go, where it's both, right? So first of all, you had to know that my channel was there and you had to go out and pull from my channel. On the other hand, I gave somebody a shout out, which I've done many times to promote their channels. And so there's a push aspect. So that's where the two kind of come together. You have to build to make content that gives someone something to the audience. Yes. It's all about the audience. For example, indie authors will often give a book away for free if the reader signs up for a mailing list. So my wife reads, and folks, I'm not just making this up to be cute. I know I exaggerate, I use hyperbole a lot, I get it, but I'm not just making this up. My wife, since she was 12 years old, reads about 3 to 5 books a week. She reads about 3 to 5 books a week. And Brittany, a lot of the ways that she discovers her authors is by going to like Amazon, and they'll do a free book, right? She'll read the free book, and then if she likes it, she'll buy number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. You guys are on fire today. Holy smoke. Okay, reach. Yeah, Brittany, you get that, right? Yeah. Reach is important. Reach is, the percentage of the target audience that is exposed to the message. So let me show you an example. Subscribe to Nutshell Brainery. Now, according to my analytics right now, there are 9 of you with me today. Hey, how's it going? Okay. However, there are 12 people in the class, or maybe 15. I don't know. It's somewhere between 12 and 15. I frankly don't know the exact number. So my reach is not 100%, because even though I have, and we'll just say 12 students in the class, 9 are here. So 9 are getting the message right now. Now you could say, and you'd be right, that the other 3, for example, might watch this live stream because it's recording. Yes, but now check that out. That is a different channel. This is going to make more sense on the next slide. The live stream right now, this is a channel. The recording that you can watch later on is a different channel, even though it's exactly the same, except it's not synchronous. and it's a pull channel. Right now, this channel is push and synchronous. Once it's done and you pull it up online, it is now pull and asynchronous. That changes the character of the channel, okay? So, how do you make sure you reach everyone in your audience? Frequency and a myriad of channels. First, frequency. We'll talk about myriad of channels in a moment. Frequency. You don't just say something once. Nobody in the history of mankind, humankind, has ever taken action after being asked once. I'm exaggerating. There's my hyperbole, okay? You actually kind of have to get the message several times, right? Brittany, by the way, talking to Cheat Activated, indie authors have more success when they publish a series because of this aspect. Meanwhile, traditional, but yeah, it's really true based on what my wife does. Yes, my wife, like I said, consumes books voraciously. And if she can get hooked with that one free book in a series, she's locked in. So yeah, indie authors, and a lot of our authors are indie authors. Okay, so frequency. Now check this out. Hey, I've asked you to subscribe to Nutshell Brainery. I've done it in the live stream several times. I have also asked, said, hey, here an extra credit. You can go ahead and do it. I've also sent out emails and announcements saying, hey, if you need some extra credit, go in and do it, and so on and so forth, right? So I have asked you several times. Now, I know most of you have. I get it, if not all of you. But here's the point. I have asked you several times to do it, and you're probably thinking, if you haven't, yeah, I'll get to it, whatever. I have plenty of time. I'll get to it. I know I should, whatever, okay? You see, you kind of need to send out the message many, many times. You have been asked many times by Slick to sign up for fall semester. And you're like, I know, I need to get to that. Fall semester, I need to get to ooh, squirrel, right? So just because somebody has asked me to do something once doesn't mean I act on it. I kind of need to get that message over and over and over. That's the power of frequency. By the way, Brittany knows I know what it takes to succeed as an indie author. Good. One day, right? One day. Okay. Now, that then goes to the message. All right? The nature of the message that you are sending out helps guide the channel as well, right? So, for example, it's totally fine for me to, in a live stream, say, hey, continuous learning, I'm a strong advocate of it. I want you to continue learning past this class. So subscribe and let me help you in your lifelong learning. I can mentor you. I can help you out. Completely appropriate. Even though it is a private entity, Nutshell Brainery, I can do that in class. It's also fine for me to do that in extra credit and so forth. However, it wouldn't be a good idea for me to use slick channels, things like, say, Canvas announcements and things like that. It's just not an appropriate channel for the message. Also kind of goes to the credibility of it. By the way, real quick, sadly, no fall semester for me because surgery and have to recover. Okay. Yeah. Well, back in spring, it's, you never run out of time. The credibility of the channel really matters as well when you select what channel to use. So, in the case of Nutshell Brainery, it's not like there'd be a channel that you kind of go, that's not an appropriate channel for the message. So, for example, what I'm showing here are, these are signs. You've seen these signs. I took these pictures, but you've seen signs like this. Local real estate investor seeks trainee, $10,000 a month, right? It's like, that that's BS. Why do you know it's BS? Because no real estate investor who's willing to pay somebody $10,000 a month is getting a piece of board and writing on it with a Sharpie marker and pinning it up on a street sign. The channel itself tells you that the message is a scam. Okay? So credibility matters as well. Finally, is it finally? No, almost. Saturation. Okay, saturation. Let's see, Zara said earlier, a bunch of the emails are never even read. We get so many emails that after a while, we just stop looking at them, right? And we just delete, because there are just too many emails in corporate world and so forth. And so if you're trying to put a very important message in email, you need to understand that that channel is so insanely saturated that the odds of anybody reading it are pretty darn low. So what does that mean for us communicating? We want to use a whole variety of channels, and we want to do this so that we can increase our reach and our frequency. So for example, first of all, I've said, hey, subscribe to Nutshell Brainery. And then I have said, so that's one channel. And then, hang on, where is it? Here it is. So one channel, subscribe to Nutshell Brainery, and I've said it in the live stream. That request will now be made into a video. It becomes another channel. I have it here in the extra credit, so I've communicated that a third way through a different channel. And it was here in, later on, I will be putting an announcement and an email saying that you can get extra credit by doing this, especially toward the end of the semester. Students start to get really anxious about how can I make sure I get my points and so forth. Oh, yeah, especially getting back after a vacation. Oh, my gosh. So you want to do a variety of channels. This is why your assignment, by the way, requires at least 3 channels. I'd prefer 4 or 5 or 6, right? But at least 3 channels, because you need to consider all the things that we've talked about here. Zara, one of the things that I tell people is when I'm on vacation, when I come back, I just delete everything. So if you want me to have something, send it to me after my vacation. Okay. And then, of course, there's cost. Cost is always a factor. Always a factor. Okay. So that then brings us to format. All right. Format's considerably shorter. All right. Now, your channel, I never delete emails. All right. Your channel decides your format. All right. Here's a really, really simple example. When you send, say, a professor an email versus when you send a friend a text, it's a completely different format, okay? An email and a professor, and then depending on what you're asking for, requires a certain amount of format, a certain format, whereas a friend and a text, depending on what you're communicating, what you're asking for, is a different format. So your channel will decide the format. It may very well be, it's absolutely the case that a format that works for one channel is inappropriate for another channel. I tease my wife because when she sends a text, they tend to be long texts. She doesn't anymore. I think actually I shouldn't tease her anymore because it's been a long time since she's done that. When she was first introduced to texts, she'd send these long texts to say, hey, pick up milk, and especially with the kids and so forth. And I'm like, you don't need to do that. Just really short things, right? Now it's all emojis. She knows exactly what she's doing. But yeah, for a text or an email, way too long. Okay, so let's talk format then real quick. Format is so much more important than we give it credit for, okay? Oh, paragraphs and text, please. One paragraph if you're sending novels and text, right? And check it out. You just said please, but then you did PLZ. So please is great for, say, like an email, or PLZ is great for a text, right? Also, when it comes to things like this chat here, I don't care about spelling and grammar and emojis. And that is a completely, you can misspell, you can do crappy grammar, you can shorten, you can, all that. You can use emojis in a chat. This is not something that I would expect in an assignment, right? So the channel decides the format. Better to go straight to the point or go into detail with the text, the email. Depends on your audience and depends on the message, right? So everything comes down to the audience and purpose. Everything. So if I'm sending a text to my wife when I'm picking her up, I have just an automatic text that just says, I'm in your lobby, heart, kiss, right? The emojis. I'm in your lobby, heart, kiss. Straight to the point because it's my wife and the purpose is to say, I'm in your lobby, come on out, we're all set. Whereas if I'm sending a request to my manager in a text, it's going to be a little bit more padded, right? Just a little though. I get in a habit, how do you know the right amount of information to send? Audience and purpose. It all comes down to that. If your audience is somebody who needs the information in order to make the decision you want them to make, then you need to provide the information. However, if they don't need to, if they don't, so for example, Christopher, that the assignments are due on Tuesday, but they're open until Thursday. You don't need to send me an email explaining why you're going to hand in an assignment on Thursday that has all kinds of information about your cat having puppies and all this sort of stuff. I don't need that information. It's already a policy. It's due Tuesday, but you can hand it in as late as Thursday. I don't need information. On the other hand, if your team is really struggling with, hey, we're having a hard time kind of coming together and making a decision around this, I need some information. Purpose and audience. That's always the answer. What is the purpose and audience? Brittany says, I get into a bad habit of reading your text before you send. Tighten your sentences. Yes, I agree. Kaylin, I'm guilty of sending paragraph texts. My ADHD goes wild, wants to cover everything all at once. Kaylin, I do the same thing with emails. So while I tell people emails should be really short and sweet and to the point, I'm also kind of a low context person or low context. And so I want to provide a lot of context. So I overdo it there. cheat activated, Christopher, if I have the authority to, I need to explain the why or just tell them what to do. Okay. Yeah. Oh, wow. We just hit our woohoo. Fantastic. We're going to do great today. Authority is an interesting thing. Okay. Just because you have the authority to tell somebody to do something doesn't mean they'll do it. They could resist. They could even resist passively, right? There's a module coming up that talks about resistance and authority and use of authority. Sometimes, and quite often, the secret to getting somebody to do something is the why, right? So, for example, I might tell you, hey, do me a favor real quick right now and subscribe to Nutshell Brainery. You're like, whatever, dude. But if I say, hey, listen, subscribe to Nutshell Brainery. I want to maintain contact with you after this class. I want to make myself available as a mentor and as a reference and somebody who can write recommendations to you. And I want you to join me in this journey as I continue to build this channel and make cool stuff for students. And I will give you extra credit. Now you're like, oh, now you've got my attention. Right? So my authority wasn't enough. The why kind of added some spice to it. All right. My ADHD has the same, but I have to break my words into paragraphs to help myself. Oh, that's a good trick. Yeah, that's a good trick. The why helps them understand, but I've been learning that they need to trust, so they don't need to ask why anymore. As soon as they have trust in you as a leader, the why matters less, especially, and this is a different topic, but let me answer real quick, okay? If they have faith in your vision and they share your vision with you, then the why of a specific tactic becomes less important. So, for example, with my boss, I know that she wants what's best for the students. And so when she asks me to do something, I'm not so inclined to ask why, because I know that she and I both care about the students. And this is real. Okay, I'm not just saying this. So, yeah. We need to talk, Christopher. Let's talk sometime, because you're talking about good management stuff. Why would you say explaining value that they could apply? Would you say it's explaining the value they could apply, says Israel? Yes, right? It's what's in it for me is what we call it, with them. What's in it for me? When I say, hey, subscribe to Nutshell Brainery, you might be like, screw you. You know, you're not the boss of me. But if I say, hey, I'll do this, and this for you, you're like, oh, that's what's in it for me. Okay, now I'm game. Yeah, absolutely, Israel. Okay, let's keep going. Format is so important. Maybe you watched the video on format, all right? Let me show you why format's so important. If you watched the video on format, you know what this is. If you didn't watch it, you don't know what it is. You don't care what it is. It's just a bunch of garbage, right? However, I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's my resume, or at least an old version of my resume. Now, here's the thing. When you look at this, you know immediately what it is. Okay? You don't look, I wonder what this is. No. The format alone tells you immediately what this is. Whereas this format doesn't tell you squat. Second, because you are familiar with the format of a resume, you know where to go to get the information you need in this document in seconds. All right? You don't need to read the whole damn thing to get the information you need. You know in just a matter of moments where to get the information you want. Whereas with this, you have no idea where the information is. None at all, okay? Next, if you get this, it screams credibility. Right away, it says this is somebody who cares about the position at least enough to send a nice, well-formatted resume. It looks clean. It looks professional. Whereas when you look at this, it doesn't say any of that. This resume, if it were sent in, would be thrown away. Just thrown away. They wouldn't even look at it. They would just throw it away. Whereas this one, they'd give it a read, okay? Furthermore, there's an aesthetic value to this. This document kind of looks pretty, whereas this looks like a monstrosity, okay? So I can't... Here's the thing about format. It's so easy to just go, whatever, format. It's such a stupid hoop we have to jump through. No, it's insanely important. Here's the main thing I want you to consider. When you are communicating with someone, you want them to say yes. How hard do you want to make them work to say yes? The answer is you don't want to make it hard at all. This resume says it's really easy for you to say, yes, I'm going to bring you in for an interview. This resume makes it impossible for them to say, yes, I'm going to bring you in for an interview. And so when it comes to teaching, I'm going to just tell you guys, what does this matter for you? What's in it for me? Right, Israel? How hard do you want me to work to give you an A? The answer needs to be, you don't want me to work hard at all. You want me to just look at your assignment and go A. And scan it for the stuff I'm looking for, just like I'd scan a resume for the stuff I'm looking for, and just say, yep, that's it. That's the format. That's the information. You got all the key points. This is the one that most students missed. You hit it, A. Whereas if you hand in a monstrosity, I kind of go, okay, I need a cup of tea. This is going to take me 20 minutes. You see what I mean? Format works to your advantage. Let's see here. So we've got Brittany. I'm so particular about formatting of my documents and essays. Can't even start writing unless I got the right format, font, spacing, so on and so forth. Kaylin totally agrees. It throws me off entirely and will bother me the whole time. Yes, yes, yes. Proper formatting equals readable. Yes. That is exactly the case. And readable means easy to say yes. Okay. So as a reader, people become accustomed to the way information is structured. I'll give you an example. Every single semester, let's say you're taking 5 classes, just for grins and giggles. You're taking 5 classes, which means you need to go into Canvas 5 times and try to figure out how each individual professor has formatted the class. And that's really frustrating for you. I'm not saying I have a solution to this. There's a whole thing around this. But the point is, imagine how much easier it would be if every single class was formatted the same way, so you knew where to go to get what information. But that's not the case. In a resume, on the other hand, people become accustomed to the way information is structured and they know exactly where to go. When you're at a bookstore, I know we don't do bookstores anymore. I still do now and again. You know, you go in and the first thing you do is you read the back of the cover. We all know there's information on the back of the cover, and then maybe we'll go in and read the introduction. Maybe we'll read the first chapter. This gives us the taste we need to make the decision whether or not, oh, by the way, the cover matters. People judge books by the cover. So people become accustomed to where the information is. Okay. We know where to look for information, the back of the book, the front of the book, or, in Canvas, the dream, as Israel says, right? Easily understood information, easily understand the information, conveys credibility. Format conveys credibility. If you know your format and you use it properly, it communicates to the receiver, this person is credible, okay? Brittany says, I use footnotes in my group's analysis because it's less confusing to me, but I didn't realize it had to be APA 7. We'll talk about APA here in a moment. Channel is an aesthetic. Format is an aesthetic, people. What do I mean by that? It means the channel itself, the document or the screen, is pretty. It's pretty. And pretty brings about endorphins, dopamine, an aesthetic, a sense of calm, or what have you, right? And so when we use the right format, it's elegant. And this conveys information. We don't want it to be pretty just because, you need to make things pretty. We want to make it pretty because we want the reader to just look at it and say, yep, there's an A. That's what we want, okay? Yeah. Always to invest in the cover first. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Allows the reader to focus their effort and energy on the content as the format is already decided. When you guys submit your communications plan, you will use pretty close to APA 7, okay? Which means it will be so stinking easy for me to just look through your plan, read the key points, make sure you've covered this, that, and the other, and go, yeah, this was really good. Whereas if it's in this funky ass format that I'm like, why didn't you look at the sample I gave you, use that as a template, so on and so forth, I have to work a lot harder to go through it. And you don't want your reader to work hard because then they're like, no. Okay. Let's see. We're not going to worry about this. Which brings us to things like style guides. Now, there are so many style guides out there. So, for example, you know that we are using APA. There it is, right up there. That's the 6th edition one. But we are using APA in this class. Business courses generally use APA. MLA is often used for, I'm just looking at it there, MLA is often used for the sciences. And medical and so on and so forth. There's the Chicago Manual of Style. We use Chicago at Intel. There's all kinds of different usages, different times, different places, and so forth. I won't bore you with the details now, but these are actually really, really, really useful. I'll just give you one example. So my PhD is in organizational psychology. So yeah, my PhD is in psychology. Psychology writes in APA. When I had to prepare my dissertation, I had to read easily, maybe 800 academic articles. Now, did I read 800 academic articles? Hell no. Because of the way these articles are formatted, you can go through them really quick. You first look at the abstract. If the abstract says, no, this isn't what you're looking at for, move on. You first look at the abstract. Abstract says, this looks perhaps interesting. You then go down to the discussion of the findings. If the discussion of the findings says this looks interesting, then you go up to the method. So it's a way to disposition, to go through these articles very, very, very quickly and find the ones that you really, really want. And those you read all the way through. Okay. Now, this is for school, but my friends, corporations have their own style guides, including Salt Lake Community College. As a matter of fact, let's, just for grins and giggles, folks, let's do Slick Style Guide. Yeah, let's go online APA. Here's style guide, spelling information, and so forth. And then custom style book. We pull this bad boy up, and here's, that's not the one I wanted. Oh heavens, I lost it. SLCC style guide. I'm looking for something specifically. But of course, let's do, well, here's all their slick stuff. All right. Accept, APA, accept, and so on and so forth. Maybe what I need to look for is their branding guide. So give me one more moment. SLCC branding guide should be part of the style guide. Here's the branding guide. Okay, so you have both. You have a style guide, which is how you spell, how you, grammar and terms and nomenclature and things like that. Then you have a branding guide that says these are the logos, these are the colors that we use, and so on and so forth. This is important. It conveys credibility, consistency, easy for people to find the information. They know where to look for things, all that good stuff. So even the companies you work for will have their own style guides and so forth. Sets expectations, easy to find information, internal branding. I just said it all. We don't need to go over it again. So there you go, folks. That is our discussion about channels and format. So once again, based on your purpose and your audience, you will then select the right channels to use to convey your information. And the right channels are the ones that your audience uses, right? If you're going to communicate to me, you're not going to use X, Twitter. I'm not on Twitter. Don't care about it. You're not going to put up posters in the hallway to communicate with me because I'm not there. You're going to send me emails. You're going to set up a face-to-face over Zoom. These are channels that I use and so forth. Okay? So, all right. Glad you learned a ton. And guys, your participation was epic. Heck, we're even going to do another one. And we'll go ahead and get some celebration. As always, do me a favor, send me an email saying, yep, I was here, I participated, and that way I can get you the extra credit points and so forth. And yeah, tell your friends and family about Nutshell Brainery and subscribe. We'll see if I get any subscribers today. All right. Hey, as always, I'm going to stick around if you have any questions or comments or anything like that. Otherwise, have a fantastic day. Keep going on your plan. The easier stuff is what's left. Okay. Even though we're only halfway through the semester, trust me, you've done the hard stuff. Enjoy it. Have fun. And we'll get you set up well. Let's see, Kaylin, I'm going into management of my work, and it's crazy how much this applies to... You right? Now, Kaylin, please, if you are going into management, check out the playlist I just sent out on Friday about a management course that I put together. It's all on YouTube, right? So it's just a whole bunch of videos, 16 videos, they're all short, about people management. And yes, trust me, you will use everything there. So check that out. Hey, Joseph, This gave me a good idea on what to do for the style guide. Good. Yes, you have to do a quick little style guide for the campaign. So excellent. Brittany, I appreciate the live streams. Thank you again. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And yeah, the whole rest of the assignments are so much easier than the audience analysis. That was the hardest part. So take a nice deep breath and kind of go, okay, let's have some fun going forward now. We'll see you guys later. Oh, I like the little popcorn emojis. I didn't notice those. But didn't mean to push that button. Pushing all kinds of buttons that I shouldn't push. Happens all the time. Too many buttons here. I was actually watching the last module at work during lunchtime, and one of my coworkers said we need to show this to the management team. Oh, man, that would make my day. That would really make my day, because I do a lot of corporate training, and I want companies to better train their people managers. I really want them to better train their people managers. So, yeah. It would make my day if they picked that up and used it in their training. Have them give me a call. It'll help them out. We'll see you, Brittany. Any other questions? Any other comments? I'm here to help you with anything you may need. Let's see, Israel. For a campaign, I'm in charge of reaching out to our stakeholders for approval. Would I reach out to just convey my findings? Okay, so it depends on who your stakeholders are and so forth. If you need their approval for something, let's see. Israel, do me a favor. Send me an email real quick and just say, look at our stakeholders. I will go back in and look at your assignment for stakeholders, and I'll give you some tips and tricks on that. So like I said earlier, if I don't have it in my email or in my text, I forget all about it. So send me an email, just say, look at stakeholders, and I will remember what you're asking. I'll take care of you. Oh, thank you, Estefania. We'll see you, Israel. Okay, well, it looks like most everyone has dropped off, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up, and we'll catch you next time. Have a good one.